Welcome to Math Maintenance. I'm Mrs. Iwanski, for those of you who don't know me. And during this session of summer school, I'm going to be walking you through a review of some math concepts that you probably learned this past school year, maybe in the last 2 school years, in hopes that we can keep your math skills sharp and keep you ready to go so that when we get back to school at the end of summer, you are ready to hit the ground running in your math class. Now, each day for math maintenance, you will start with one of these videos where I will review a concept with you on my whiteboard here. And then after the review, I will introduce you to the different things that you're going to be doing that day. There will always be some pages in your work packet that you'll be asked to do to review the concepts that we've worked together on the board. And then you will also have a digital activity to do, something probably in Google Classroom, either on slides or a doc or sheets or a drawing maybe. And then you'll also have a online game to play, so to practice the same set of skills. So 3 ways to practice the same set of skills, 2 being virtual or digital ways, 1 being paper and pencil, and then also this review video to just kind of refresh your memory on some things. Now, if we happen to hit a skill that you're like, I don't remember ever learning about that, don't panic. Watch the video, see what you can come up with, do the best that you can on the different resources that you've been given. I picked from kind of a whole plethora of 6th grade skills, not necessarily specifically from the curriculum that you work through in your school. And so if something looks a little bit unfamiliar or I show you a different way of doing it, you can certainly still do it the way that your teacher taught you or the way that you learned to do it in your class. All right, enough about how the class is going to run. Let's practice our first skill. I'm going to start you off with a pretty easy one. Let's talk about ratios. So when we talk about ratios, there's some different ways that we can write them. We can write a ratio like a fraction. So we can say something to something. We could also write it out with words. Or we could write it out with a colon in between, like this. So if I want to do the ratio of squares to triangles, I would first need to count up how many squares there are, and that's going to go on the left side. And then how many triangles is going to go on the right side in each of these setups. So I would go through and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then triangles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you see a ratio written down in any of these 3 ways, as a fraction, with the word, or with a colon, they're all the same. So they all are representing the same thing. You just want to pay attention to the problems, how they're asking you to write them out. Now 11 and 7 are both prime numbers, so there's not going to be a way to reduce that down. If, for example, let's just put another square up here and another triangle. If we got something like this, so by adding 1 more, I would now have that my ratio is 12 to 8. That could be reduced down to have a more simplified ratio. So instead of 12 to 8, I could say that my ratio is 6 to 4, or even better, I would say that my ratio is 3 to 2. All I'm doing is reducing by looking for what I can divide both of these numbers by. So I divided by 2, and then I divided by 2 again. You can do ratios for anything. So here I had by shapes. I could also make a ratio that's by colors. So let's go over here. Again, I could write it out any of these 3 ways. And let's do a ratio of purple things to red things. All I need to do is go through and count up my purple things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. And my red things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 11 to 9. Okay? I could also say, what is the ratio of purple and blue things. So I could ask you to add two things together to red things. So now instead of 11 to 9, I would need to take the 11 purple and add on 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 to 9. I'm looking, this is even, this is odd, this has factors of 2 and 8 and 4. This has factors of 3 and 1 and 9. So it doesn't have any common factors, which means it can't be reduced. I could write it any of these three ways. When working with ratios, it's important to just keep track of which piece goes in which spot, so which piece is the left and the right, and then whether it can be reduced or not. So looking for those common multiples or those common factors so that you can reduce it down to its simplest form. It's much easier to say there's 3 squares for every 2 triangles than it is to say, well, there's 12 squares for every 8 triangles. Well, because what if I go to 10 triangles? Then how many squares are there going to be? Ooh, I don't really know. But here, if I say, oh, now I want to know what if there's 10 triangles? What's an equivalent ratio? I multiplied by 5. So I know that to keep the same ratio, there would now have to be 15 squares. All right, assignments for today. In your packet, you're going to do number 1 and number 2. They're both labeled ratios. All you need to do is to count up how many palm trees to flip-flops, crabs to flip-flops, etc. You're going to write the ratio 3 ways, just like we did. Try to reduce it down if you can to make it in its simplest form. That's the best kind of ratio you can make. Your virtual or digital practice on Classroom is a self-correcting Google Sheet. So it's a ratio table, finding those equivalent ratios. As you fill in the numbers, if they're correct, the cells will turn green. Your online game today is a Math Blaster game. You're going to try to save the planet by finding the ratios. Good luck, happy ratio practicing, and I'll see you tomorrow.